The House Appropriations Committee will come to order.
Diana, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Ormsby and members of the committee. Thank you for your hard work, especially coming in on a weekend to do more work. You should have received the Art of Washington's budget side-by-side smiley chart this morning. So I'll address a couple things in there. The House budget proposal didn't include any language about closing Rainier, but Representative Paulette will be offering an amendment to add developing a plan to reduce the footprint of Rainier and including two of the residents on the advisory group with zero fiscal impact. Under waivers for home and community-based services waivers, you do have funding in there for the SIBS waivers, but the other body also included funding for some more openings on the 4 other waivers that our state has too. So I would really urge you to take a look at the budget side by side and see if there are places that you could come over to where the other body is, because there was a lot of things added in that. But we appreciate all the work that you are doing on behalf of people with developmental disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dadden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anthony, welcome.
Yeah, my name is Anthony Nash, and I live in the 8th Legislative District, and I am calling on the budget for Rainier School because people need to be out of institutions and in community living because people are afraid of things and they want to live independently. And we all who are self-advocates, people with IDD, deserve to live in the community independent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nash.
And welcome, Daria. You can begin.
Thank you, Vice Chair Macri and Chair Ormsby. For the record, I'm Daria Farivar with Disability Rights Washington. We have signed in other before the budgets were released, but are now pro due to the funding allocated to maintain Phase 1 and provide new funding for Phase 2 of the True Blood settlement. We greatly appreciate the state's commitment to the phased regions and the millions of dollars allocated in the budget to operate these programs. But we believe the funding allocated is not sufficient for the residential supports required to make these programs successful, especially in King County where costs are higher. King County has more competency evaluation referrals than all Phase 1 regions combined, but the state has only allocated half of the operations funds that Phase 1 received. DSHS data shows that our current programs report serious trouble securing transitional and permanent supportive housing for class members. Programs are forced to place class members in motels and emergency shelters, and many are then released back into homelessness. This does not achieve stability and long-term diversion, but instead perpetuates this cycle of arrest and competency. The state has not sought sufficient funding to fulfill residential supports as outlined in the settlement, and without sufficient housing options, True Blood programs can't be successful. Please increase funding to ensure we can meet the requirements of the settlement agreement. Thank you for your consideration. I will just briefly add that Mr. Williams is unable to be here today due to a last minute issue.
Thank you for the heads up. Mr. Wardell?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Representative. My name is Robert McDowell Wardell. I'm with People First of Washington, a self-advocacy movement. We would like Rainier and Faircrest to be closed because I live in Rainier from when I was a little boy to adulthood, and I'm opposed to keeping them open because people with disability need programs and jobs and get out and do fun activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wardell.
Welcome, Adrian.
Chair Ormsby and members of the committee, for the record, I'm Adrienne Stewart on behalf of the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Council. Mr. Chair, we'd like to work with you to beef up this budget for people with developmental disabilities and their families. The Senate budget, for instance, includes $26 million to close Rainier School in recognition that warehousing people in institutions is an outdated, archaic model that many other states have figured out how to phase out, respecting the requests of institutional survivors. We implore Washington State, which currently ranks 39th in the community investments, to come in line with the #1 ranking that people without developmental disabilities and their families get to enjoy. Where the Senate added 467 waivers, IFS waiver slots, the House added nothing. Where the Senate added 159 core waiver slots, the House added nothing. The Senate gave the Dan Thompson Memorial Trust $50 million and the House gave us nothing. The Senate funded 5268 and Senate Bill 5284 and the House does not. The Senate budget includes a critical budget proviso that funds a language access work group specifically requested by Open Doors for Multicultural Families to address the lack of interpreters in schools for kids with disabilities. The House does not. The personal needs allowance was bumped up significantly in the Senate's budget and the House does not. We respectfully request that your budget come more in line with the Senate's. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
We can proceed with Ivanova. Please go ahead. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ivanova Smith, and I represent Self Advocates in Leadership SAIL. We had signed in pro to this budget, hoping that it would be similar to the budget in the Senate. Sadly, this is not the case. We were hoping that there would be the funding for the closure of Rainier School, the institution in Pierce County, and funding to help transition people out of the institutions. We want to make sure that the IFS waivers and the other community supports are still being funded and that people with disabilities are not left out. We thank Representative Pollack for the amendment that will support the Nothing About Us Without Us. Please support these efforts that have been put in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Julie, please go ahead. Welcome.
Good morning.
My name is Julie Clark, and I am using my Toby Dynavox speech device to share my message about why I feel no one needs to live in an institutional setting. These are my own words, and my speech device will help me get them out clearly. Cerebral palsy is my disability. I am 54 years old, and I live in Lacey. I was in Western State Hospital for 3 months in 2001. CoQA is a residential provider, and they got me out of the hospital in September of that year and put me into my apartment with day and evening caregivers. I was in independent living. In independent living, my caregivers did cook and clean. I was able to come and go as I pleased. My transportation was using public transportation. Being independent was especially important to me because I could set my schedule. I chose how to run my life. I worked for the Department of Health and Human Services as a secretary for 17 years before I retired in 2018. Working was essential to me because I was involved, contributing to my community. I was an important member of that organization for many years. The United Churches of Olympia is my church, and I have been going there for over 25 years. I am an active member of my church. The church is important to me. As I aged, I could not take care of myself. I needed to have 24-hour care. So, CoQA placed me in a shared home that CoQA runs. I had a roommate who was yelling all the time. My roommate would assault the caregivers. Being in the shared home was not safe for me. In November 2019, I moved to an apartment in Lacey with CoQA's help. I get 24-hour care. A nurse comes to check up on me because my hair is high. I have a feeding tube, vest chest compression machine, and hair lift. My caregivers go everywhere I go. It is nice to be living on my own again. I was in and out of the hospital with pneumonia for the last 6 months of 2019. Shelley is a nurse that CoQA hired. She has taught me how to breathe better. I have not been to the hospital with Shelley's help since January 2020. I am in community inclusion, a part of a supported employment program that allows me to continue to be active in my community now that I am retired. It is still essential for me to be involved in the community. I do a lot of advocacy and volunteer work. When I was in an institution, I could not do what I can do in the community. I am pleased to be in the community to set my schedule and be involved in whatever activities I choose. I have all the freedom that my health will allow, and I am grateful to be an active part of my community. A group of self-advocates was formed known as the Shut Them Down Coalition, and I am a member of this group. This group wants to close all the residential rehabilitation centers, RHC, to allow all of these individuals to be active members of their community. I strongly believe that all disabled people should live in the community and that nobody should live in an RHC. Will you sign a petition to shut them down?
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
And Alex, if you're ready.
Madam Chair, my name is Alex Modler, and I am testifying on the behalf of SAIL on SB 5083 concerning the closure of Reiner School. We are grateful for this as it means more people can choose how and where they are served. We also like the peer mentoring program as it prepares people to successfully leave the institution. In community settings, people are able to direct the care they receive and can opt out of services that they do not utilize. This is a better model than the institutions for people with disabilities that are capable of making decisions for themselves. We are also grateful for the supported living beds, state-operated living alternatives, and the adult family home beds in the community for people moving from Rainier so they don't have to go to another institution. Thank you. Alex.
Thank you, Alex.